She didn't know the most dangerous man in the city had been watching her for 3 years because of something her 4-year-old son did in an alley. This is the story of a debt no one dared refuse, and the only woman who did. The first time Alina Ward learned her rent had been paid for an entire year, she did not feel relieved. She stood inside the narrow leasing office with a wet grocery bag cutting into her wrist and stared at the receipt as if someone had slipped a threat beneath the paper. 12 months. Paid in full. No warning. No request. No explanation. Just her apartment number, her name, and a balance that had quietly vanished overnight. For 3 years, rent had been the thing that lived ahead of every sunrise. It sat behind every extra shift, every skipped meal, every lie she told her son about why shoes could last one more winter. So when Mr. Callahan slid the receipt across the counter with nervous kindness in his face, Elena did not feel grateful. She felt watched. There has to be a mistake, she said. Mr. Callahan avoided her eyes. Outside, rain crawled down the office glass in crooked lines. No mistake. He muttered. Accounts clear. Elena did not move. Noah was waiting in the hallway with his backpack and a folded paper airplane in his hand. Who paid it? She asked. Mr. Callahan hesitated too long. That was enough. Poor people learned quickly that hesitation usually arrived before bad news. He opened a drawer, removed a second slip, and placed it face down between them. Elena flipped it over. 2 clean words sat at the bottom. Moretti Holdings. The breath in her chest shortened before her thoughts did. Everyone in that city knew Luca Moretti's name, even if most people pretended not to. Restaurants stayed open when he entered. Men lowered their voices when they said he had been nearby. Police sometimes forgot to ask second questions. Ileana had never met him, never borrowed money from him, never asked for protection from any man. Yet somehow his money had entered her home before he had. That felt worse than debt. Tell him I refused, she said. Mr. Callahan's face tightened. Elena, sometimes it's safer not to refuse certain things. She folded the receipt sharply enough to cut her thumb on the edge. Then tell him anyway. That night, rain hammered the apartment windows, hard enough to make the old glass tremble. Elena made soup from onions, 2 soft carrots, and the last chicken bone she had saved in the freezer. Noah sat at the tiny kitchen table, his feet not quite reaching the floor. He watched her more carefully than children were supposed to. Are we moving? He asked. Elena kept stirring. No. Did we do something wrong that hurt more than she expected? She turned and softened. No. Baby, we're okay. But after Noah fell asleep, Elena stood at the living room window with every light off. Across the street, beneath the dead blue flicker of a laundromat sign, a black sedan sat motionless. No headlights, no driver stepping out, no cigarette smoke curling into the rain, just stillness. She watched it for 11 minutes. On the 12th, the driver's side window lowered halfway. She could not see the face, only darkness inside the frame. Then the glass rose again. She barely slept. By morning, fear had hardened into anger. Elena dropped Noah at school, waited until he disappeared through the double doors, then crossed the city using 2 buses and a cracked map on her phone until she reached the address connected to Moretti Holdings. The building looked like old money had learned how to become quiet. Dark glass, stone walls, men in black coats standing near the entrance with the kind of stillness that warned people without touching them. Elena walked past them before doubt could slow her down. One stepped forward. "Mom." She lifted the folded receipt. "I need to speak to the man who thinks he owns my rent." The guard's eyes shifted, almost recognizing her. He opened the door. That frightened her more than resistance would have. She was taken upstairs without being asked her name. The elevator rose too smoothly. Cameras sat above polished corners like patient insects. On the top floor, a woman at a desk stood immediately. "Mr. Moretti is expecting you." Elena's stomach tightened. Of course he is. Luca Moretti's office was quieter than she expected. Gray walls. Rain sliding down tall windows. One long table. No gold. No luxury trying to prove itself. He stood near the glass in a charcoal coat, looking out over the city as if it had disappointed him years ago and never recovered. When he turned, Elena understood why people lowered their voices. He was not broad or theatrical. He looked dangerous in the way sharp things look dangerous still. Deliberate. And without wasted motion. Dark hair. Tired eyes. Controlled posture. A man who had likely spent years making sure no one saw weakness long enough to mistake it for invitation. His gaze moved first to her cut thumb, then to the receipt in her hand. "Mrs. Ward," he said. Elena's jaw tightened. "Don't say my name like you know me." His expression barely changed. "I know enough." She walked forward and dropped the receipt on the table between them. "Then you know I don't take money from men like you." Something shifted in his face. Small and almost invisible. Not offense, restraint. "Men like me," he said quietly, "usually collect." Elena leaned closer. "Then collect this." Rain tapped steadily against the glass behind him. "I don't want your money. I don't want your men near my building. I don't want your name anywhere near my son." At the word son, his eyes changed. Elena saw it immediately. Mothers learned to read silence before language. Luca looked toward the rain-dark window before speaking. "Your son is not in danger from me." Elena folded her arms. "That isn't an answer. It is the answer I can give you today." She laughed once. "Humorless. You paid a year of my rent and had me brought here without asking. You don't get to be mysterious." He turned fully toward her then. No raised voice. No aggression. Yet the room felt smaller. "I did not bring you here," he said. "You came." She hated that he was technically right. Before she could answer, his phone lit briefly on the desk. He ignored it. "Someone has been watching your building." Elena went cold. "I know." "Did you see the sedan?" She stared at him. "You know about it." "I know enough." He opened a folder on the table. Photographs. Her apartment entrance. The alley behind the building. The school corner where Noah sometimes bought chocolate milk. Elena gripped the table. "What is this?" Luca's voice stayed level. "A problem that reached you before I wanted it to." Her breathing sharpened. "Because of you," his jaw flexed once. Possibly her voice cracked for the first time. "I have a child." "I know." Two simple words. Heavy. Too steady. Elena stepped back. "Stay away from us." Luca did not move toward her. Mrs. Ward. I said stay away. He slid a plain card across the table. One number. No logo. No explanation. If anyone approaches your son, if anyone asks about your routine, if anything feels wrong, call. Eleanor stared at it, then left it where it was. I survived before you noticed us. For the first time, something almost tired entered his expression. Yes, he said quietly. That is why this has to be handled carefully. She left before anger cracked into fear. In the lobby, one of Luca's men opened the door for her. Outside, rain had softened into gray mist. Across the street, a man in a brown jacket stood beside a newspaper box pretending to read something upside down. Elena noticed him because he noticed her too late. Their eyes met. Then he turned and walked away. Her phone vibrated before she reached the curb. Unknown number. One message. Do not take the bus home today. She froze beneath the awning. Behind her, the lobby doors opened. Luca Moretti stepped outside without an umbrella. His dark coat, catching mist and cold air like weather, meant nothing to him. He did not look at her first. He looked across the street, toward where the brown-jacketed man had disappeared. Then he said, quietly enough that only she could hear, "Now you understand why I paid the rent?" By the time Eleanor reached Noah's school, the rain had thinned into a cold gray mist, but the city still looked washed in dull steel. She did not take the bus. She crossed 2 intersections, doubled back once, then called a cab from outside a pharmacy she had never entered before. Every reflection made her glance up. Storefront glass, parked car windows, wet pavement catching pale sky. Fear had a way of teaching poor people how quickly ordinary streets could stop feeling ordinary. When Noah stepped out through the school doors with his backpack slipping off one shoulder and a red paper folder tucked under his arm, he smiled first. Then he saw her face and slowed. Mom Elena crouched and fixed his zipper with fingers colder than the weather. We're going home a different way today. Noah looked up carefully. Did I do something? That hurt more than she expected. She touched his cheek. No. Baby. You did nothing wrong. Behind the line of parents, a man in a baseball cap turned away too quickly. Eleanor saw him. More importantly, someone else saw him too. A delivery truck parked near the curb opened its side panel just enough for a man in a faded work jacket to step down carrying an empty crate. He moved casually between the baseball cap and the children without once looking at either. By the time Elena stood, the man in the cap had disappeared into traffic. The delivery worker crossed the street and vanished just as quietly. That was the first protection Luca gave her, without asking permission. It made her angry because it worked. It made her afraid because she had not noticed it until it was already done. She held Noah's hand too tightly all the way home. He complained once, then slipped his hand back into hers anyway when she loosened her grip. At the corner near their building, the laundromat sign flickered blue above wet concrete. The black sedan was gone. Somehow the empty space felt worse. Inside the apartment, Elena checked the lock twice, then shoved a kitchen chair beneath the knob even though she knew how foolish it looked. Noah watched from the small table. Are we hiding, no? She took off his wet shoes and lined them near the heater. We're being careful. He nodded in the solemn way children accepted adult words they did not fully trust. Then he opened his red folder and slid out a drawing. A small house. 3 figures outside it. One was very tall and colored in black. Elena started. "Who is that?" Noah shrugged, suddenly interested in the paper edge. "The man." Her throat tightened. "What man?" "The one from downstairs." She looked up sharply. "Noah." He blinked. "He said I should wait inside until you came." "Mrs. Vale was late opening the front door yesterday." Elena felt the room narrow. "You spoke to him. He spoke first." Noah hesitated. He was polite. Elena stood so fast the chair scraped hard against the floor. She crossed to the window and looked down at the street. Nothing obvious. No black sedan. No man pretending to smoke. No brown jacket near the curb. That did not calm her. She shut the curtains and turned back. "If any adult talks to you and I'm not there, you walk away. Do you understand?" Noah lowered his eyes. "Even if they're helping, especially then." The sharpness in her own voice cut her almost as fast as it cut him. He looked back at his drawing and quietly folded it in half. The phone rang at 712. Unknown number. Elena let it ring once, twice, then answered without speaking. Luca's voice came through low and controlled. "Is your son inside? You don't get to ask that." "Is he inside?" She glanced toward Noah's room. "Yes. Keep him away from the windows for 10 minutes. Her pulse climbed instantly. "Why?" A short pause. "Because someone across the street has a camera pointed at your floor." Elena did not argue. Pride had no use against urgency. She moved to Noah's room and found him kneeling on the rug with crayons. "We're making cocoa." Her voice sounded almost normal. She was proud of that. He followed her into the kitchen. She kept him below the counter while the kettle warmed. Outside, there was no dramatic gunfire. No shattered glass. Just one muffled thud from the alley side. Then a car door slamming too hard. When Luca called again, she was gripping the sink edge hard enough to whiten her knuckles. "It's done," he said. "What is done? A man made a mistake." Elena swallowed. "Is he dead?" Silence. Then, "No." Relief came before anger. She hated that. "Why are you doing this?" Luca's voice lowered. "Tomorrow. Use the west entrance. Do not let Noah stop at the corner store. He buys chocolate milk on Fridays." "Not this Friday." She hung up before he could say more. That night, the apartment felt slightly altered, as if fear had shifted every ordinary thing by half an inch. Noah's shoes by the heater, his jacket over the chair, the lamp beside the couch. He fell asleep holding the folded drawing. The tall black figure still stood outside the little house. At dawn, Elena found an envelope beneath her front door. Cheap white paper, damp at one edge. Inside was a photograph of Noah standing outside school from the day before. A red circle had been drawn around his face. Elena made no sound. Then something inside her went still in a harder, colder way than panic. She folded the photo once, slipped it into her coat pocket, and called the number Luca had given her. He answered immediately. "Mrs. Ward." "Elena," she said flatly. "My son's name is Elena's son to me before he's leveraged to anyone. Someone left his picture at my door." Silence shifted on the line. "Do not open the door again. Do not touch the hallway. I'm sending men." Elena stared at the chain lock. "No. You come yourself. A short pause. I'm already downstairs. She looked through the peephole. Empty hall. Then Luca stepped into view from the stairwell. Dark coat. Rain still clinging to his shoulders, though the morning had cleared. 2 men remained behind him. Careful. Distant. Luca looked directly toward the door. As if he knew she was watching, he lifted one empty hand. No urgency. No theater. Just visibility. Elena opened the door only wide enough for the chain. Luca took the photo without brushing her fingers. His face changed only slightly. Enough. Find who entered this floor. He said over his shoulder. One of his men left immediately. Elena watched him. You said my son wasn't in danger from you. He isn't. Then why does danger follow you to my door? Luca looked at her through the narrow opening. For once. No polished answer came quickly. Because someone believes he matters to me. Elena's hand tightened on the door. Does he? Luca held her gaze. Yes. Before she could press harder, Noah stepped from the bathroom in socks too large for his feet. He stopped when he saw Luca through the gap. His face shifted with quiet recognition. You're the man from downstairs. Elena turned sharply. Luca's expression changed before he could stop it. The hardness remained. Something else entered beside it. Good morning. Noah, he said. His voice was lower now. Noah stepped closer until Elena held out an arm. Stay back. He obeyed. His eyes remained on Luca. Are you why Mom is scared? The hallway went still. One of Luca's men looked away. Luca accepted the question without flinching. Partly. Noah thought carefully. Are you going to fix it? Luca looked once at Elena before answering. Yes. That was the first time Elena understood why men followed Luca Moretti. It was not loudness. It was certainty. When he said one word, the air around him seemed to arrange itself around it. Noah believed him immediately. Elena did not. Belief was expensive. And she had spent too much of her life paying for promises that broke. Still. When Luca told her to pack clothes for 2 nights and bring Noah's medicine, she did not refuse immediately. That frightened her too. They left through the service stairwell, not the front. Luca's men took the elevator separately. On the second landing, Noah stumbled. Luca's hand came out fast, stopping just short of touching him until Elena gave the smallest nod. Only then did he steady the boy's shoulder. Watch your step, Noah whispered. Thank you. Luca released him at once. Behind the building, a gray SUV waited. Elena hesitated. Where are you taking us? Luca scanned the alley before answering. Somewhere no one has your routine. That isn't a place. It is today. Noah climbed in first. They drove through side streets Elena did not know. Away from her apartment. Away from school. Away from every familiar corner of her life. Luca sat in the front seat, speaking quietly into a phone, receiving updates without visible surprise. Elena watched the back of his head and tried to decide whether safety could resemble danger from the wrong angle. Noah fell asleep against her arm 20 minutes later. Children trusted patterns faster than adults. He had already noticed who watched doors. The safe apartment sat above a closed tailor shop on a quiet old street with brick walls and no visible sign. Inside, it was plain, clean sheets, stocked cabinets, working heat, a lamp with a soft shade. No marble. No expensive softness, pretending to erase fear. Noah found a small night light in the bedroom and plugged it in himself. It's like a little moon. Elena stood in the doorway watching him. Luca remained near the front room window, giving them distance. Coat off, still dangerous. Simply quieter. When Noah asked if there was cocoa, Luca opened a cabinet without searching and took down a tin. Elena started. You stocked cocoa. Children drink it. Children also need explanations. Luca looked toward Noah's room. Adults do too. Then start. His eyes moved toward the bedroom. Not in front of him. Elena stepped closer. You don't get to decide what my son hears. Luca's gaze sharpened, then settled. No, I don't. That stopped her more than anger would have. She had expected control, ownership, orders. He offered none. The cocoa boiled over because she forgot the stove. Luca reached first, turning the flame down. Steam rose between them. Elena wiped the spill too hard. You paid my rent. You tracked my building. You know what my son drinks on Fridays. You moved us into a hidden apartment, and somehow you expect me to call this protection. Luca's voice stayed even. I expect you to call it disturbing. Then I expect you to stay alive long enough to hate me for it. The line landed harder than she wanted. In the bedroom, Noah laughed softly at something on the small television. Luca heard it too. His shoulders changed almost imperceptibly. Elena noticed. Mothers noticed everything around their children. Why him? She asked. Why does my son matter to you? Luca did not answer. He carried the cocoa mug to the table and set it carefully away from the edge where Noah might knock it over. One ordinary movement. No display. Elena suddenly felt dangerously close to tears. She hated that. Violence was easier to reject than practical care. Luca looked toward the rain-dark window. Because some debts are older than your fear of me. By 7 in the morning, the safe apartment no longer felt safe. Elena could feel it before Luca said anything. His men moved differently beyond the door. Footsteps replaced too quickly. Voices kept low. Someone downstairs had already been swapped twice before breakfast. Luca stood near the kitchen window with a phone to his ear, saying almost nothing. And somehow that silence carried more danger than shouting would have. Noah sat at the table stirring cereal until colored marshmallows bled into milk, watching adults pretend the room had not changed. Elena kept one hand on the back of his chair. Are we going home today? Noah asked. She opened her mouth, but Luca answered first. Not yet. Noah looked at him. That means no. Luca did not soften it. Yes. The honesty sat heavily in the room. His phone buzzed again. He read the message and slipped it into his pocket. Elena saw the change. Tell me. Luca turned. Your building manager disappeared last night. Her stomach tightened. Mr. Callahan, his office is empty. Security footage from your floor is gone. Elena looked toward the sink. He told me to take the blessing. Luca's eyes sharpened. He said that. She nodded. Luca looked to one of his men. Find him before they do. Noah stopped stirring his cereal. Did someone hurt the landlord? Elena crouched beside him. But Luca crossed first and stopped at careful distance. We don't know yet. Noah studied him. You say that when the truth is worse. Elena almost closed her eyes. Luca took the hit without blinking. Sometimes, he said, then quieter. Today it means we are still looking. Noah nodded. But the cereal remained untouched. The fracture came through Enzo. Elena had seen him twice before. Broad shoulders. Quiet. The kind of loyalty Luca's men wore without speaking. At 9, he entered and asked to speak privately. Luca did not move. Say it here. Enzo hesitated. The west route is open. Cars ready in 10. Luca stared at him. I did not authorize a west route. The apartment tightened. Elena felt Noah turn toward her. Enzo swallowed. Marco sent updated clearance. Luca stepped closer. No raised voice. No violence. Somehow worse. No. Someone sent bait using my route pattern. Enzo's jaw hardened. I checked it. Then you checked it badly. Enzo lowered his eyes. I would never put the boy at risk. Luca's voice dropped low enough to force everyone still. Someone already has. Noah slid from his chair. Elena held him gently behind her. Luca turned toward another guard. Lock every exit. No one moves her son, unless I say it to his face. Enzo left with shame sharper than anger. Elena waited until the door shut. Who is he? Luca's eyes flicked toward Noah. Then back. Elena's patience cracked. Do not protect me with silence. Silence is what brought us here. He took it. Victor Soren. The name meant nothing to her. That made her feel smaller. Luca continued. Eastern accounts. Transport. Police contact. Enough influence to think he can challenge me without standing in front of me. Elena's voice thinned. And my son is leverage. Luca lowered his gaze for half a second. Yes. She looked toward Noah, pretending not to listen. Because you paid my rent. Because I was careless enough to let the payment be traced. That honesty struck harder than excuse would have. She had expected blame. Enemious. Timing. Weak men. Instead, he stood inside the damage. Then undo it, she said. Luca met her eyes. No. Undo all of it. Remove your men. Take back the money. Let us disappear. His jaw tightened. If you disappear now, you die tired and running. The sentence flattened the room. Noah looked up. Elena's face changed. Luca saw it, but did not soften truth into comfort. They know your building. They know the school. They know his face. The only thing they do not know is where he sleeps tonight. Elena stepped closer. Then why does he matter enough to start a war? Luca said nothing. That silence finally broke her restraint. She grabbed Noah's backpack and began stuffing clothes into it with shaking hands. We're leaving. Luca moved once and blocked the door. Calm. Final? No. Elena turned sharply. You do not keep us here. I am keeping your son alive. By making him a target. Luca's jaw flexed. By standing between him and men who already decided he could be used. Noah's voice came small behind them. Please don't fight. Both adults stopped. He stood clutching his stuffed fox against his chest. Eyes wet, but trying not to cry. Eleanor knelt immediately and held him. Over his shoulder. She looked at Luca. You owe me the truth. Before he could answer. The lights went out. The apartment dropped into gray shadow. Downstairs. Something heavy slammed metal. Luca moved instantly, pulling Elena and Noah away from the windows with one arm that stopped just short of touching them. His phone lit. No service. Noah whispered. Is it them? Luca looked toward the front door. The man Elena feared became the man others should fear. Yes. The attack came quietly. Building power cut. Stairwell access jammed. False knocks at opposite ends of the hall to split attention. Luca understood it instantly. Kitchen. Elena pulled Noah with her. Behind the pantry. Luca opened a narrow maintenance panel she had never noticed. Take him through. Tomas is behind the tailor shop. Elena started. What about you? I closed the door behind you. Noah grabbed Luca's sleeve. Are you coming? Luca looked down at the child's hand. For half a second, the room seemed to pause around that small contact. Yes, he said. After your mother. Elena crawled through dust and insulation with Noah ahead of her and Luca's apartment taking impact behind them. At the far hatch, Tomas opened from the other side and pulled them into the dark back room of the tailor shop. Cold brick. Old fabric. Dust shaking loose from the ceiling. Noah tried to turn back. Elena held him. No. 3 minutes later, Luca emerged through the hatch. Coat torn at one shoulder. Thin blood along his knuckles. Breathing controlled. Eyes alert. Noah saw the blood and paled. Luca closed his hand immediately. It isn't mine. Elena believed him. Tomas opened the rear exit. Rain waited outside. Soft. Shameless. They moved into an older sedan and crossed the city again. No one spoke for 2 blocks. Then Elena turned. You almost sent us through the west route. No. If Enzo had not said it in front of you, Luca watched rain move over the glass. Then I would have seen the trap later. Later might have been too late. Yes. Again. No defense. Noah fell asleep against her shoulder. Luca looked at the boy once, then away. She noticed. He wanted to look longer. He refused himself. That restraint told her more than explanation had. The second safe place was a closed church daycare at the edge of the old district. Small chairs stacked against painted walls. Crayon marks near the floor. A priest unlocked the side door, saw Luca's face, and asked no questions. Noah was asleep within minutes on a nap mat meant for younger children. Elena was not. She stood in the narrow hall, watching Luca wash blood from his knuckles in a child-sized sink. And for the first time, safety felt almost as unsettling as danger. She held out paper towel. You're bleeding. Luca glanced at it. Minor. I didn't ask. He accepted it after a pause. Wrapped the cut one-handed. No weakness. No performance. Rain tapped softly at the small windows. They were alone for the first time, Noah asleep. The guards outside. The city quiet behind glass. Elena looked at the painted rabbits on the wall. She had spent the last 2 days fearing him. She had spent the last 2 hours watching him. There was a difference between the two things, and she was only now beginning to understand it. You told Noah you would come after us, she said. Luca looked toward the classroom. I did. You made him believe you. His voice lowered. Then I had to. That struck somewhere she did not want touched. You need to tell me now. Luca leaned back carefully against a wall covered in painted rabbits and stars. 6 years ago, Victor sold my route to men who wanted my seat. I did not know it was him then. I only knew the car behind me was not mine. Elena stayed still. They hit my driver. Then the second car. I was wounded before I reached the alley behind St. Jude's Clinic. Her fingers tightened. St. Jude's. Free pediatric hours. Asthma medicine. Rain. Noah in a blue jacket. A memory stirred. Luca looked toward the dark window. It was raining harder than this. Eleanor whispered. How old was he? 4. Her breath shortened. I don't remember you. You were exhausted. He was coughing. You saw me and reached for your phone. The memory sharpened. A man near the alley wall. Blood. One knee on wet pavement. Her own fear. I was going to call 911. Luca nodded. I know. His voice lowered. He stopped you. Eleanor's eyes lifted. Noah Luca looked directly at her. He said, Mommy. Wait. He looks tired. Not bad. Elena covered her mouth. The memory hit in broken pieces. Noah tugging her coat. Rain hammering concrete. A water bottle in her shaking hand. She had not called. She had not screamed. She had left the bottle and dragged her son away fast enough that she never expected to think of it again. Luca continued. That water kept me conscious until my men reached me. 3 minutes later, the alley was sealed. If police arrived first, I was gone. If the men hunting me found me first, I was gone. If your son had not looked at me the way he did, I was gone. Elena lowered her hand. He was 4. Yes. He didn't know who you were? That is why it mattered. Silence thickened in the small hall. Elena looked at him differently for the first time. Not softer. Clearer. A child's mercy had outlived years of violence. Poverty had made her forget what survival did not let her carry. Luca had remembered because men like him remembered anything that kept them breathing. So, you found us. Later, and paid my rent. When I learned you were 3 weeks from eviction, the private humiliation landed quietly. He did not look away. She almost did. I intended to keep distance. But Victor traced it. Yes. Elena looked toward the classroom. Because even your debt has enemies. Luca followed her gaze. Because anything in me that is not useful becomes something men like Victor want removed. Noah stirred inside the classroom. Both adults turned at once. Luca stopped himself before stepping forward. Elena saw the restraint again. He doesn't know. No. You never told him no. Why Luca's eyes stayed on the doorway. A child should not carry the weight of saving a man like me. That answer landed deeper than she expected. Then his phone vibrated. He checked it. Went still. Elena saw it instantly. What now Victor called a meeting. With who? Men deciding whether I still lead clearly. She understood enough. Because of us. Because I chose you publicly. Then don't go. The words came faster than she intended. Luca looked at her. She hated the fear in her own voice. If this is about power, walking in gives them what they want. If I don't go, they come here next with more men. Send someone else. This cannot be answered by someone else. Calm. Math. Worse than recklessness. Elena stepped closer. You said my son kept you alive. Do not repay him by becoming something he has to remember under a sheet. Luca held her eyes. For 1 second, the machinery around him felt far away. I am not going there to die. Men always say that before women wait beside windows. He took that too. I'm going there to end the question. What question? His eyes moved toward Noah, asleep beneath a daycare blanket printed with pale moons. Whether protecting your son makes me weak, Elena asked quietly. And will you? Luca looked at the sleeping child. His face did not soften. That made the answer stronger. Yes. If the choice is empire or the boy, I drop the empire. Elena had no immediate defense left. She still feared his world. She still hated what it had brought to her door. But she believed one thing now. Every time danger moved, Luca's body moved first between it and Noah. Belief had begun there. Noah woke near dusk and found them in the hall. Hair flattened on one side. Stuffed fox under his arm. Are you leaving? He asked Luca. For a little while. Noah frowned. Because of the bad men, because of the men who sent them. Will you come back? The question sat in the hall like fragile glass. Luca answered carefully. I will do everything required to come back. Noah frowned harder. That's not yes. Luca's mouth shifted almost like pain. No. Noah stepped forward and held out the stuffed fox. Then take him. He's good for waiting. Luca stared at the toy as if it carried more weight than a weapon, then accepted it. Carefully. I will bring him back. After he left, the daycare felt larger and emptier. Elena locked the classroom door. 2 of Luca's men remained outside. Noah sat beside her beneath faded paper stars. Mom, did I really help him before? She closed her eyes briefly. He had heard enough. Yes. Noah was quiet. Was I wrong that nearly broke her? She held his face gently. No. Baby. Being kind was never wrong. Outside. The city prepared its violence. Inside. Elena held her son and began understanding the most dangerous thing in Luca Moretti was not what he could destroy. It was what he had already chosen to protect. Luca left just after dark with Noah's stuffed fox tucked inside the inner fold of his coat. The meeting took place inside a private freight warehouse near the river. One of Luca's older holdings where shipping manifests could disappear, and men learned quickly when silence mattered more than money. Victor Soren had chosen the place because it looked neutral. Luca understood the insult immediately. Neutral ground only existed when weaker men needed rules. He entered with 2 guards. Coat still damp. Face unriadable. Noah's fox pressed unseen against his ribs like an absurd reminder that tenderness had followed him into a room built for threats. Victor was already seated at the long steel table beneath hard industrial lights. Mid-50s. Clean beard. Expensive gloves. Calm, in the rehearsed way of men who believed strategy could replace courage. Around him sat captains from Luca's Eastern network. Men who had carried his orders for years and now watched him with sharpened caution. Loyalty had thinned into observation. Luca stood at the head of the table and did not sit. That alone shifted the room. You cut power to a church district line. He said, You sent men toward a child. Victor folded his hands. I sent men toward your judgment. No one moved. Rain struck the warehouse roof in long metallic whispers. Luca's gaze stayed fixed. Say his name. Victor's expression tightened by half a degree. The boy, Luca's voice lowered. The child you marked. Victor leaned back. You moved him twice. You exposed roots. You removed trusted men from revenue sectors to protect one woman and one boy. Men notice patterns. He glanced around the table. So do I. One captain shifted. Another lowered his eyes. This was not only revenge, it was an audit of weakness. Luca placed both hands lightly on the steel table. Then observed carefully. Victor smiled without warmth. You paid her rent. You tracked her building. You compromised distance over sentiment tied to a child who once looked at you kindly in an alley. If mercy can redirect you, empire belongs to someone colder. The insult landed where it needed to inside the eyes of men who measured power by what could not be touched. Luca did not strike him. That restraint frightened the room more. He turned slowly, looking at each captain one by one, forcing them to remain inside what had been done. Which of you approved school surveillance? Silence. Which of you allowed a photograph of a child to be delivered to a mother's door? One man at the far side blinked too late. Marco. Thin-faced. Sharp. Loyal to numbers before men. Luca saw it. So did everyone else. Marco stood too quickly. I only passed route access. Luca moved before the sentence finished. One hard step. A hand at the throat. Marco slammed against the steel table hard enough to rattle glasses. Luca's violence was terrifying because it wasted nothing. He did not beat him. He pinned him there and leaned close enough that everyone had to hear. You passed floor access. Marco's face reddened. Victor said pressure would expose. Luca tightened once. A child is not pressure. That sentence broke the room. Men looked down. Some looked at Victor. Some finally looked at Luca differently. The line had been drawn. He released Marco, who collapsed coughing. Then Luca turned toward Victor. Still no shouting. Still no performance. You wanted proof my judgment had shifted. Victor rose slowly. It has. Luca reached inside his coat and removed Noah's stuffed fox, placing it on the steel table between guns, wet glasses, and silent phones. The childish toy under warehouse light looked almost offensive. Even Victor's calm shifted. Luca's voice remained low. This was handed to me by a boy who believed I would return. The captain stared. Luca did not hide the humiliation of carrying softness into a violent room. He made them witness it. He saved my life before he knew my name. His mother gave water to a dying man because a child refused to let fear decide first. Rain hammered harder above them. Luca's eyes moved across the table. If you believe protecting that makes me weak, learn what I protect with. Victor stood. You would throw years away for sentiment. Luca sat slowly at the head of the table, judgment settling. No. I would throw years away because men who send knives toward children do not stand under my roof. He looked toward two guards near the side door. Take Victor. Victor's chair scraped sharply. You think they follow you after this? Luca did not even turn his head. If they don't, they can leave with him. That was the true gamble. No speech. No grand loyalty performance. Only consequence. 3 long breaths passed. Then the first captain stepped behind Luca. Then Thomas. Then Enzo. Then another. Marco remained on the floor, coughing and useless. Victor understood before his body moved. He lunged toward the sidearm of a guard who hesitated half a second too long. The gunshot cracked through steel and rain. Men ducked. Glass shattered. Luca moved first. He drove the steel table sideways, catching Victor's arm. forcing the shot upward into hanging chain. Tomas fired once, then silence. Hard. Immediate. Victor collapsed beside the steel table leg. Blood spreading dark and controlled across concrete. Luca stood above him, breathing steady. Alive. Unbroken. Terrifying in the exact way men had feared for years. The first thing he did afterward was pick up Noah's fox. Back at the daycare, Eleanor heard distant sirens before her phone rang. Noah had fallen asleep with his head in her lap. Her hand froze before she answered. Luca's name. His voice came through rougher than usual. Stripped by wet air and violence? It's done. Elena closed her eyes. Are you hurt? A short pause. No. She believed him because he did not decorate the answer. Are they coming here? No. Noah stirred when she whispered Luca's name. Is he coming back? Elena looked at the rain-blurred classroom window. I think so. Noah stayed awake. Waiting had become heavier than sleep. 43 minutes later, the side door opened. Luca stepped into the daycare hall carrying wet air, gunpowder, and the stuffed fox under one arm. Noah ran before Elena could stop him. Halfway there, Luca crouched. Not softness, precision. He knew how to meet a child without towering over him. Noah stopped and took the fox. You brought him back. Luca's voice lowered. I said I would. Noah hugged it tightly, then noticed the tear in Luca's coat and dark stain near his cuff. Did the bad men stop? Luca glanced once at Elena, then answered the child. The ones who were coming for you did. That was enough for Noah. Children trusted behavior faster than adults when behavior matched words. He returned to Elena, clutching the fox and already fading into exhaustion. Luca stood. Hall light made him look older around the eyes. Eleanor knew something had changed. The danger aimed at Noah had ended, but his world had shifted with it. She stepped closer after Noah drifted into the classroom. What did it cost? Luca answered without hiding. Men. Ruth? Trust. Years. Was it worth it? The question left her before pride could stop it. Luca looked toward the doorway where Noah slept beneath faded paper stars. Then back at her. Yes, silence settled differently now. No control. No fear. Exhausted understanding. Elena reached into her coat pocket and removed the rent receipt she had carried since the leasing office. Folded soft at the edges. She looked at it once, then tore it in half. Luca's eyes followed the motion. You still don't owe me anything. Elena almost laughed. But grief and relief made it too small. I know. She let the torn paper fall into the trash beside painted rabbits on the wall. That's why I can stop hating it. She did not thank him like a woman in love. She did not forgive his world. She simply stepped aside when he looked toward the classroom and asked quietly, May I see if he's sleeping? Eleanor nodded. Luca entered softly. Noah lay curled beneath the daycare blanket. Stuffed fox tucked beneath his chin. Breathing deep and even, a weak nightlight in the corner cast pale moonlight across the small room. Luca stood beside the nap mat, keeping distance. Shoulders heavy with the kind of violence no child should ever understand. Then he lifted the blanket slightly higher over Noah's shoulder. One practical movement. Quiet care. Elena watched from the doorway. She finally understood what the rent had been. A debt carried by a dangerous man who had remembered one act of childhood mercy longer than most men remembered loyalty. Outside, rain moved gently over the old city. Inside, the room was still poor, still plain, still temporary. But her son slept without fear. And for the first time in months, Alina did not stand between him and darkness alone. By morning, Luca was gone. No dramatic farewell. No claim on her life. Only 2 guards now stationed farther from the building. Almost invisible. And a stocked fridge left behind because Noah liked cocoa. Elena opened the small kitchen cabinet and saw the tin. She smiled once. Tired and private. In the next room, Noah asked if they could go home soon. She looked toward the waking city beyond wet glass and answered with more certainty than she had carried in a long time. Yes. Baby, we can. Some protections arrive like violence. Some remain long after the danger leaves. If you want to keep walking where loyalty costs blood and mercy still changes dangerous men, stay close because somewhere else in this city, another locked door is already waiting for someone to decide who stands in front of it.